Good morning, second grade. Today is Thursday, March 26th, and I wanted to check in with you again. I went up to school yesterday because teachers were allowed in the building to go in and get a few things that we might need. And I went ahead and brought the rest of the aquarium home since we won't be back at school. And I was going to tell you that when we cleaned it out, there were over 50 snails in our fish tank. So we had a lot of snails in our tank. And I'll send you all a picture of our fish and our snails. I had to move them into a little bit smaller aquarium here at the house. So I will send you all a picture later this week. But I wanted to let you know that the fish and the snails are doing very well. Which reminds me then I had a joke for you that had to do with that. And the joke of the day is, why are fish so smart? Do you think you know the answer? Because they live in schools. All right, my friends. I hope everyone is having a good day. I'm going to send out some math problems. And the math problems today use coins. And so I wanted to do a little review for you to remind you that the math problems today will have a quarter, and the quarter has George Washington's face on one side of it, and then it has the eagle on the back, and the quarter is worth 25 cents. Your math problems will also have a nickel, and the nickel has Thomas Jefferson's face on one side of it. And the back side of the nickel has his home where he lives, which is called where he lived when he was president, which is Monticello. And the nickel's worth 5 cents. And then you will also have dimes on some of your math problems. And the dime has Franklin Roosevelt's face on one side, and then some olive branches on the back side of the dime, and the dime is worth 10 cents. So you're going to be using those coin values in your math problems today. I'm also going to send the link for a Mystery Doug video that has to do with money, and it is how money is made. So I'll send the word problems, which have some addition using coins, and then I will send the Mystery Doug video link. And if your family has signed up for a Mystery Doug account, which is free, I think you have to have an email to sign up, you can access all of the Mystery Doug videos. And I'll be sending out some more of those. Remember, he posts a new video every week too, so those are fun to watch. I wanted to read some more of our story, The Wild Robot Escapes. And yesterday when we left off, Roz had been rescued by the whale, whose name was Coral, and she and her son, Brightbill, were coming into a new town, and they were trying to be careful because Roz did not want to be spotted. And so when we stopped yesterday, Roz was camouflaging herself, and they were going to start trying to sneak through the towns to make better time. And so today's story starts off called The Town, and they're going to make a new friend. So let's see what happens with that. Chapter 67. Pookie was a big little dog. Her body was round. Her legs were short. Her ears were long. Although the dog looked funny, she was serious about protecting her home. She slapped her front paws on the windowsill and stared into the night to make sure all was well outside. But all was not well. A new clump of weeds had mysteriously sprouted in the yard. Pookie needed to take a closer look. What do you think the weeds might be? The dog whined by the back door until someone let her out. Then she scurried across the porch, down the steps, and over to the mysterious weeds. As Pookie approached, a raspy growl sounded in her throat. "Where did these weeds come from?" she said to herself, sniffing. "They weren't here this afternoon." The weeds rustled in the breeze, and that was enough to set Pookie off. The dog barked and barked and barked, and then Astonishingly, the weeds spoke to her in a clear, calm voice. "I am sorry if I disturbed you," said the weeds. Pookie stopped barking. "I was hoping to pass through without being seen," said the weeds. "But you saw me. You are a very good guard dog." Pookie resumed barking. "No, no, no, shh," said the weeds. "Please stop barking." But there was no stopping Pookie. The clump of weeds decided to move. Like some sort of monster, the weeds rose up on two legs and leaped over the fence into the neighboring yard. Felix had heard Pookie barking next door, and when the weedy monster landed in his yard, he started barking as well. So the monster kept going, leaping fences from one yard to the next. Every house in the neighborhood seemed to have a dog, and they all began barking about the weedy monster. Reader, you and I know the monster was actually our robot in disguise. But the dogs never did figure out what happened that night. Roz finally slunk into the shadows behind a school building and listened as the chorus of dogs settled down. "That didn't go very well," said the goose as he landed beside his mother. "No, it did not," said the robot. "This will only be tougher in daylight. I know. I will have to try something else." Early the next morning, the sun started rising. Automobiles started driving. Robots started running errands. However, one of those robots was not like the rest. Roz had picked every speck of dirt from her body, and now she blended in with all the normal robots, going about their normal morning routines. Our robot was hiding in plain sight. Roz marched through town, turning left and right down the streets, as Brightbill watched from above. Along the way, she passed a wide variety of robots, all going about their business. There was even another Rozum robot marching around, who looked identical to our Roz, except she was shinier and had a different unit number. It occurred to Rozum Unit 7134 that if anyone noticed her unit number, it might bring a swift response from the Ricos. But as she continued past houses and shops and humans and robots, there didn't seem to be any danger. Everything was going smoothly until she heard an airship flying toward the town. Our robot felt something like dread as she waited for a sleek white ship to appear. If the Ricos found her now, there would be no escape. But the ship that appeared wasn't white. It was black, and it flew over without stopping. Roz was safe, and suddenly she was dreaming about airships. Returning to the island would be so easy with the ship. She and Brightbill would climb in, fire up the engines, and be home in no time at all. But it was an impossible dream. There was no safe way for our robot to get an airship. She had to find some other way home. First, she had to find her way out of this town. So Roz focused on her surroundings and continued marching along the sidewalks, just like a normal robot. Chapter 68, The Station. At the edge of town, where the houses stopped and the countryside began, was a small train station. Two platforms sat on either side of the tracks. Humans and robots were standing around, waiting for the next train to arrive. Nobody paid any attention to our robot as she calmly marched past. When Roz was safely out of sight, she slipped into the woods where Brightbill was hiding. The goose opened his mouth to speak, but the station bells started ringing. Speeding down the tracks was a passenger train. A whistle blew, the train gently braked, and a minute later, it came to a smooth stop at the station. Passengers burst out of the train cars while others stepped aboard. The first 9 cars were reserved for humans and had wide windows and comfortable seats. The only robots allowed in those cars were service robots, who brought food and drinks to the human passengers. All other robots were confined to the windowless car at the end of the train. "Where's it going?" whispered Brightbill as he peeked out from the brush. "The sign says this is the express train to the city," whispered Roz. The goose turned to his mother. "We have to go past the city to get home. This train could save us a lot of time. We should hop on." The robot turned to her son. I do not think that is a good idea. It is too risky. Ma, I watched you walk through town and no one even noticed you. We'll be fine. Let's follow those robots into the last car. I'll find a hiding spot, and we'll be in the city before you know it. Roz had questions. How large is the city? Do you know where to go? What if we get lost? Relax, Ma. My pigeon friend, Graybreak, lives there. She'll be happy to help us. A voice called out from the loudspeaker, and the last couple of passengers hurried along the platform. I'm going to check it out, said Brightbill. With a quick flurry of wing beats, he fluttered out from the brush and onto the roof of the last train car. The goose lowered his long neck and looked through the open door. Then he looked back and waved for his mother to join. A whistle blew, and Brightbill waved faster. Roz had little choice, so she slipped out of the trees and marched onto the platform. In here, Ma, Brightbill pointed down to the doorway beneath him. Everything about this situation made our robot nervous. Her survival instincts were tingling. Roz looked up at her son on the roof, and then she stepped through the train door. And before Brightbill could flutter in behind her, the door slid closed and the train began to move. Chapter 69, The Train. Our robot felt something like panic as the train pulled away from the station. She wanted to break down the door, leap from the train and find her son. But what could Roz do? She had to act like a normal robot. She had to pretend that nothing was wrong. The train car's interior was a long, windowless room filled with rows and rows of robots. The robots were all facing forward, all standing still. If not for their softly glowing eyes, you might think they were statues. Some of the robots were perfect and new, but most had scrapes and dents. None more than Rosum Unit 7134. Roz walked down the aisle and stood in the last row, and the train started to accelerate. Faster and faster it went until it reached its cruising speed. Then it hummed along the tracks, occasionally swinging left or right as it snaked around a curve. With no windows, Roz could only wonder how far she was traveling. She could only wonder about the scenery outside. Mostly, she wondered about her son. Was Brightbill okay? How would she ever find him? Would they ever see each other again? Of course they would. Brightbill was smart and resourceful. The goose would simply follow the train tracks into the city. Then he would find his pigeon friend, Graybeak, and she would help them reunite. Roz just had to stay out of trouble. Time crawled by. The robots gently swayed with the motion of the train. Finally, there was an announcement from the loudspeaker. Next and final stop, Center City Station. A whistle blew and the train braked and slowed and came to a smooth stop. The doors slid open and the robots filed out. Here's a picture of the train that Roz is traveling on. And so tomorrow we'll continue and see what happens as Roz arrives through the city, into the city, and marches through the city. So we'll start chapter 70 tomorrow. All right, everyone. I hope that you have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.